Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the show's for today's opening. I'm speaking with Peter de Boer, board member and investors relations director at the AGRAR Group, the largest integrated livestock farm in Romania and the leader in cow milk production. Peter, good morning and thank you for joining us.
Yeah, good morning, and I'm glad to be back at your show.
Thank you. Last week, you published the annual financial results of the AGRAR Group, and before we discuss them, I'd like to ask you, how would you describe last year for the company's activity? How was 2024?
Now, if we go back to the beginning of 2024, we saw a huge drop in milk price. Anyway, the milk price last year was quite volatile.
Yeah.
That's also quite common for the milk price. And still, I think we show, or the AGRAR shows year on year, that besides this volatile milk price, we continue to stable growth. And that is mainly aligned to our strategy that we plan years in ahead, somehow to stabilize this factor. As well as, of course, we later on, although we had a drop of 20% approx in the beginning of the year, then later on it slowed down, it stabilized, and especially in the second half of the year, the milk price slowly on started to grow. And especially the last quarter, where we had the highest, where we received the highest sales price, was really a strong quarter. If we look to the agricultural year, that was quite a good one. We had sufficient rainfall, etc., at least on the right moment. So generally, we saw an increase in the tons harvest per hectare. Due to the sufficient rainfall, we saw some delays at our Deschiderea project. That's our newest project, the Deschiderea farm, where we are constructing a new farm, which we started last year. To create a farm of 5,000 animals with 4,000 dairy cows, 1,000 young stock animals, which will become operational in approximately 2 weeks, and which will be finalized by the end of 2027 when we will have there 5,000 animals. That caused some delay because we expected to start production there in September, but still soon this will start. So all in all, I think it was quite a good year. Also, we finalized the construction for our compost plant, which became also operational. And especially if we look to the figures, we cannot complain at all. Yeah. So, we had an increase of 40% in our net profit to 32 million. That is really a significant increase. We had an EBITDA increase of 31% to 71 million lei. And of course, the turnover, which we announced already in February to the stock market, there we saw an increase of 16% to 176 million lei. So all in all, yeah, we are more than satisfied over the last year.
Yes, 2024 ended, as you mentioned, with the preliminary consolidated turnover, an increase of 16% compared to 2023, while net profit rose by 40% to 32 million lei, driven by a 14% increase in milk production and a 2.8% increase in milk price. Congratulations on these results. How was the last quarter? Because there is a noticeable improvement in the financial indicators compared to the first 9 months. For example, when the increases were 6% in profit and 9% in turnover. How do you explain this acceleration in dynamics?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What I just probably forgot to mention is, especially the summer period, it was extremely hot in the Transylvania region, which we saw a sharp decrease in our milk deliveries, especially in August, September, but also already in July. But generally, why the Q4 was such a strong quarter? It was mainly due to the fact if we compare the milk price to Q3, in Q4 we received a 19% higher milk price on average than Q3, and if we compare it with the first 9 months, we received in Q4. Sorry, no, I say this wrong. We received 17% higher. Received a 17% higher milk price in Q4 compared to Q3, and if we compare it with the first 9 months, we received a 19% higher milk price on average in Q4 compared to the first 9 months. Next to that, we saw also that we had 7% more milk delivered in Q4 compared to Q3. So these are the two main indicators why Q4 was such a strong quarter. And of course, we have always at the end of the year some recalculation of the production cost. And there we benefited with, because we estimate the production cost for the crops, etc., at the beginning of the year. And there we generated an extra income from 1.2 million lei. So also that added a bit to the result. But mainly it is a really strong performance Q4. As I said, 7% more milk than the previous quarter, and 19% higher sales price of milk compared to the first 9 months of 2024.
What livestock headcount did you have at the end of last year?
We had over 16,000, and livestock means dairy cows and young stock. And from that, we had over 13,000 animals eligible for subsidies. But although, as we have mentioned many times, subsidies received for the animals are based on the reference date, and the reference date is 2018. So although over 13,000 animals qualified for the subsidy scheme per head of animal, we received only for 66% of those 13,000 animals, we received only subsidies. So we hope in the future that the reference date will be updated to reality, because this remains, of course, a concern, especially for the AGRAR, as we are a fast-growing company and adding every year new animals.
What are your forecasts for this year? For example, do you continue to increase the number of animals?
Yes, we expect by the end of this year to have 17,500 to 18,000 animals, and that is mainly due to the start for the Deschiderea farm, which will start to operate in a maximum 2 weeks, I think a bit earlier, and where we will have by the end of this year 1,800 dairy cows. So we expect to end this year, between 17,500 and 18,000 animals. And then the next step, of course, is to finalize the Deschiderea farm. That will be the end of 2027, and then we will have approximately 20,000 animals, let's say.
Okay, about investments, approximately 39 million lei were invested in 2024. What is the status of the investment plan, and what other investments are you considering?
The majority of the investment allocated last year, of course, went into the Deschiderea farm. That's over 20 million lei of that amount, as well as that we did a significant, of course, extension in the Appold farm, where we moved first our young stock farm was located in Piano, and we moved this to the Appold farm. And of course, we had our first compost factory investment of 1.8 million euros as well. For this year, we just announced our second compost plant. We have a shareholders meeting in March for approval for financing of 1.7 million euros to start to construct our second compost plant. Through that, we will increase our capacity to 14,000 tons of production capacity. We expect, if of course approved by our shareholders, that the machine will be shipped from Japan in August, and then in the third or latest fourth quarter, it will become operational. First need to be installed, of course, but we expect as soon as the financing is approved, we can almost start immediately with the construction of the building, at least. That's all already scheduled. That's one thing. Then we announced also this year that we will start to install in Q2 solar panels. That's also an investment of approximately 1.8 million euros. A big part is financed, over 60% through PNRR funds. And those solar panels, they will be installed for the total consumption for the Lacto AGRAR farm, the Apold farm, as well as on DNAGRAR surface, but that is the DNAGRAR Koet farm. And those farms will become electricity neutral. And of course, we have the next further steps for Strasia. Now, currently we have a capacity at the Strasia farm of 1,100 animals. One milking rotor is finalized. The second milking rotor will be finalized by the end of March, beginning of April. But with the first milking rotor, we can already milk 2,000 dairy cows. So from now on, we start to populate the Strasia farm, and we will do that gradually in steps, and we will reach a capacity by the end of this year of 1,800 dairy cows. Afterwards, every month, another 100 cows will enter, which will lead by the end of 2027 in 4,000 dairy cows. And a production capacity of production capacity of 100,000 liters per day. And then on group level in 2028, we will produce over 100 million liters annually. And then we are by far the largest milk producer in all of the EU.
Okay, what impact will the compost factory inaugurated last year have in 2025? You have announced that the compost factory is now in place, and the impact is coming from 2025.
Yeah. So, we started operations, and one production cycle of compost. So it's a fully automated machine. First, we have a pre-composting phase of 5 days, and then it enters into the machine, and there it remains. In the 9 months of the year, the production cycle is 27 days. We had quite, although we have barely rainfall and snow, etc., we had quite some cold weeks, so that extends a bit the production cycle, let's say on average between 33 and 35 days. Now we are optimizing the product because the difference in the sales price is because we want to certify it as organic fertilizer. And that's quite important also for the sales price. If we look to the market prices today, just normal compost has a market price of approximately 70 euros per ton. And if you certify it as an organic fertilizer and you have the right product for that, the sales price is between 200 and 230 euros on average, let's say. So that is a huge difference. Next to that, of course, we will also receive. We started a procedure to receive voluntary carbon certificates. To date, they have approximately a value of 20 euros per certificate. We will receive per compost plant on an annual basis 16,000 of those certificates, but it will take from now on 2 years to obtain them, and that's for a period of 5 years. Currently, the product goes really well. The operations go really well. So we will start soon with the certification process. Then we will use the product normally internally, at least in the first half year, and we expect to start sales in the second part of this year, and we expect to sell, let's say, between 3,000 and 3,500 tons of organic fertilizer. And in the next year, of course, we will significantly increase that to approximately 10,000 tons of organic fertilizer, which is our goal to sell outside of the group. Okay. With the second announcement with the second compost plant, as I said already, we will increase capacity to 14,000, but we will always use a part of the product also inside our group.
And you have the second compost factory in plan.
Yeah. So as I said, that we expect to go on the boat, which when our shareholders approve the second financing by the end of March. Then it will be shipped. First, it need to be constructed in Japan, and it will go in one of the harbors of Japan. It will enter the boat, the cargo in August, and then it takes I don't know, 4 to 6 weeks or something to be shipped to Romania, to Constanța. By the end, latest by the end of this year, that will be also operational. And then from 2026, we have a production capacity of approx 14,000 tons of organic fertilizer.
Okay, and there you have the biomethane project. When do you expect to yield the results? What is the investment benefit ratio?
Yeah, so I cannot. I will stick to the communiques we did so far. That's because we are not the only party. Last year we signed with Black Sea Oil and Gas
Yes.
the cooperation agreement for a plant between 15 and 20 megawatts. Currently, the start of acquisition of land, etc., has already started. We are significantly making progress over there. I expect in the coming months to come with further announcements for the development contracts, supply contracts, etc. That's negotiations are all going on. In the meantime, of course, we are working on all the plans, the designs, etc., to speed up the process as much as we can. But also some legislative changes in Romania need to take place. One of them is that it is still not allowed in Romania to inject biogas into the grid. This is everywhere already for many years possible in Europe. We expect, and for that I also watched carefully the ZF Energy Summit to see what, especially the Minister of Energy, if he had some announcements there, to allow biogas injection into the biomethane injection into the grid, as well as the trade of the certificates of origin. We are confident that steps will be taken. So our goal is still to start production. I think somewhere in the ideal situation, it would be in the second part, I think, of 2027. But I hope it will be not later than 2028. But we will do everything, to have everything in place. But as I said, it also depends partially on the Romanian legislation, and especially the situations are quite unsure at the moment. We can also see that at the capital market, etc. So we hope that everything comes down after May and that we can set some concrete steps. But internally, together with BSOG, we will do everything that we, as soon as possible, are ready to provide green gas to reduce our emissions with 90%, and it will mean a huge income stream for the AGRAR, as we expect yearly approx 3.5 million euros to receive for our manure, between 3 and 3.5 million euros. So based on our figures of today, that will have a real significant impact in the profitability of the AGRAR group.
Okay. We are talking about various business lines regarding the AGRAR group. What does diversification mean in your field? In what direction can you further expand? And basically, where do you see potential?
Yes. Currently, we are writing our strategy. We have a current strategy by doubling our business by the end of 2027.
Exactly.
At the beginning of April, we will announce our new strategy till 2030. And I expect that we will announce 2 new investments this year. And I think also that are not announced yet, which we will announce them later this year. We are now in discussion of the design phase and the financing phase. And I think we could start to execute at least those 2 investments, because the strategy to 2030 will involve more investments, but at least 2 investments I think we can start to execute next year. But generally speaking, in diversification, also for what we have mentioned in the past, is and we get many questions also from institutional investors as from retail investors. They would like to see that we diversify more our client base to who we sell milk. But there are not that many large milk processors in Romania. That's quite consolidated between 5 or 6 companies. So we started to analyze what can we do to further diversify. And through the compost lines and the biogas line, we significantly entered 2 new markets. And we expect that if everything is implemented, that let's say milk will generate between 50 and 60% of the financials, and then especially in regards to the profitability of the company. And the other 40% accumulated should come from the compost, the organic fertilizer, as well as the biogas income stream. Next to that, we are ready for a long time, and we also mentioned in the past, we are analyzing the possibility to construct a wheat grass production plant. Currently, we are importing every year for 4 million euros or over 4 million euros rapeseed from Hungary. And this vertical farm, which produces wheatgrass with a production cycle of 6-7 days, we could replace that in steps. And we are also analyzing, but that's a bit more on the long term, for vegetable and fruit production, where there would be some synergies, especially on the fertilizer part. So I think there are many options to diversify, but we mainly look in the food sector, let's say, and still to find somehow a integrated business model, because I think that is what the AGRAR business model makes it so successful. That we saw during COVID, with the Ukraine crisis, also now with all the things in world politics that are going on, that we succeed. And so I think it's a big compliment to the whole management team and all the 300 employees of the DNAGAR group, that we succeed. Although we have now already for many, many years a lot of challenges, climate change is another one, that we succeed every year, growth, and also quite significant growth, especially for an agricultural and a food producer. So that is the more or less where we're looking into. But as I said, in the beginning of April, we will come up with a really detailed diversification strategy, expansion strategy, as well as we will update our 4 scenarios. We have 4 scenarios which can be found on our website, where we predict currently till 2027, and those scenarios will be updated to 2030.
Okay, we talked about the price of milk at the beginning. How do you anticipate the milk price evolving this year, and what would gonna be the impact on the business?
Yeah, the milk price, although it is the first quarter looks really good. The outlook for Q1 looks, we expect a strong Q1 compared to the previous year. But also since January, the milk price is declining. Still, it is significantly higher than at Q1 in 2023. We know already more or less the milk price that we will receive, including April, and we see a declining trend. But until April, it remains higher than we received in the first 4 months last year. We expected the milk price will further decline. It was really record high at the end of last year. So we expected it further will decline also in May and June. And we expect more or less, for what we can see now in July and August, more or less to stabilize, and that it will start to grow from around September. The good news for us is, at least, especially in the Netherlands, but also partly also in Denmark and Germany, but especially in the Netherlands, the collection of milk heavily decreased, and it's already for the 3rd year in row that the collections decrease over there, and that is a major exporting country for milk. So that could have an effect that the milk price will sooner stabilize. We need to see that. On the other hand, we are a bit worried, especially to the rainfall for the crops, and especially for the winter wheat, because that we saw already last year, and that will be in a few months we will start to harvest. And to give you an example, in 2023, from October till March 2024, we had 200 milliliters per square meter. And now from 2024, October till March, of almost now, we have the 2025, we have only 72. So we have a 64% decrease in rainfall. So that is problematic, and we hope, but of course it's an external factor, it's not in our control. We hope, of course, that in the coming months this will improve. Nevertheless, we have an integrated business model, and we have many years that we cannot compete with our production costs to the market prices, so we need to see what will be the effect. But for sure, as far as we can oversee now, for sure it will have an effect at least on the winter wheat production. But as I said, the milk price is significantly higher, so that should compensate. And of course, in the second part of the year, we have the extra incomes as well from the compost plant, from the organic fertilizer, and Strage will start to run. Although, of course, in the beginning, it's impossible to make directly profit there. To give you an example, first, of course, we bought last week a feeding machine for the Strasja farm. That machine can feed up to 2,000 animals. And of course, we start gradually to populate the farm. So yeah, all these kind of costs you cannot divide through so many liters directly. So that takes some time. But generally, we are positive, and we expect also the budget will be announced by the end of March. And we expect that we will show a growth there. In the budget will show a growth. It will not be like a 30-40% our estimation as we had the previous year, but still sustainable growth. And expect especially the year after should again involve a bigger step, because then a bigger part of Strasja of the Strasja project is implemented. We are way more ahead with our compost plant, and then we have also a year that the solar panels are a year fully in operation, let's say, with a significant reduction on the electricity consumption.
Can we expect the same growth rate in the last quarter of 2024? I mean, what are the financial forecasts for this year?
As I just mentioned, the financial forecast we will only publish by the end of March, but the forecast is that we will grow in turnover as well as in a net profit. As I said, we have a bit of a concern so far on the rainfall. So on the crop side, we need to see. It could be if the rainfall doesn't improve, that we will be forced later in the year to purchase extra food from the market. That doesn't necessarily needs to be negative. That really depends on the market prices. As I just mentioned, we have many years that we cannot compete to the market prices because they were extremely low. But that's only after 8-9 months, let's say, what those prices are, and you need to decide in the beginning in the year, of course, if you start to sow or not, or to seed or not. But generally, we will show a sustainable growth. It will not be with the same percentages, at least in our prediction, as the previous year, but it will be still a significant step. And then the year after, 2026, there we expect again a bigger growth, because a lot of the investments that we do will be further optimized compared to now.
What are the main challenges for the AGRAR Group's business this year, and how do you plan to address them?
As I just mentioned, I think for now our main concern is that we have so far 64% less rainfall. So that is, of course, a concern. We have 10,000 hectares. We are a circular company. We produce our own food for our animals, just some rapeseed imports, etc. So I think that could be that is clearly a challenge. Further, of course, to find sufficient staff. Generally, we don't have issues to find staff, but to find quality staff, especially with so many animals, it's really important that procedures are respected, that they work on a constant level and constant quality. There are still improvement possible, so that could be a challenge. And I think mainly to the capital market in general, a challenge is the political situation in Romania first of all, but of course also worldwide. Although I don't expect it this year, but one of the consequences could be of the trade tariffs that the Trump administration will implement. That a result of that, of course, could be that Europe will be overloaded with cheap Chinese products. That also the EU will implement trade tariffs. And in that case, China warned already that one of the possible sectors where they will put tariffs on are agricultural products, although first they name German cars or cars in general. But second, they name pork meat, and third, other agricultural products like cheese or dairy products. And that could, of course, result in a further decline of the milk price. But normally these kind of things take time. So in case these kind of measurements will be implemented, we expect They will not have a clear result this year, but probably from 2026. But anyway, that is far ahead, so we don't know what's going on. But for all investors, as for us having a big investment plan, although we will continue, we have announced already many plans for this year. So we will continue to invest. We will announce our strategy till 2030. So we want to be clear. We see a lot of potential to invest in Romania. We want to remain here. We have a clear growth strategy that I think it's interesting for all stakeholders. But we need to have some certainty, and that's especially on the biogas project that we hope that this year the Romanian government finally, I would say, takes some concrete steps and gets aligned with the rest of Europe for renewables. We could see just announced in the press from the Prime Minister Ciolacu, I think he mentioned proudly, first of all, that it would be an amazing agricultural year. I was myself this whole week in Bucharest, and I saw there was a lot of snow, so I can imagine that, there it looks good. But first of all, in the Transylvania region, the situation is a bit different. As well as it was proudly announced that Romgaz probably will take over the largest chemical fertilizer plant. But it's clear that the chemical fertilizer is not the solution for the dairy industry for the future. First of all, it is way more polluting than organic fertilizer. So the government needs to sustain way more circular agriculture. Next to that, there needs to be used a lot of gas to produce chemical fertilizer, while there are a lot of alternatives instead of usage of a chemical fertilizer, it's way better to use that gas in industries where it is hard to replace renewable sources. So we hope that also the Romanian government will seize this. And to give you an example, you can bring way more months per year chemical fertilizer on your fields than natural manure or than organic fertilizer. While organic fertilizer is less polluting, but the lobby of chemical fertilizer is extremely strong. And especially if we think of Russia, and there we see some good. I saw an interview from the EU Commission in the Financial Times where they announced that they will implement legislation to decrease the dependency of chemical fertilizer from Russia, because it's the largest producer of chemical fertilizer, and to invest more and come up with more legislation to support Renew, etc., which is first of all an extra income stream for farmers. And secondly, it is way better for circular agriculture and for the circular economy.
One last question, Peter. How do you see the evolution of shares on the stock market? And besides that, what are your plans regarding the capital market? Future funding, maybe?
Yeah. We all the time analyze the options. At the moment, we are quite... I think everyone is unsatisfied at the moment with their valuation. And I think this will remain till at least the end of May. And then, of course, depending on the election results, so we will see if finally things will stabilize and we can move forward. So I think till May, nothing will really happen. From our perspective, we are clearly significantly undervaluated, but of course, it's always a lot of company owners will say this, but I think also if you look to the analyst reports that are written last year, there was put evaluation of the N shares of, I think the highest was 1.86, another one was 1.76. At the moment we are around 1.50, 1.52. So there's clear room for growth, and it is expensive to go now to use the mechanism of the stock exchange, or you should think of bonds, but especially for capital increases, it's in our opinion too expensive to make use of the capital market. We still would like to do that, so it could be something later. We are really looking for M&As. We had almost announcement for an M&A in January. Even the press release was already ready. Unfortunately, it collapsed. We needed to withdraw from it, but we are still looking for other M&A possibilities throughout the year. And in case the valuation is acceptable in the stock market, I think that could be a possible route to use to finance this M&A. Next to that, on the long term, the IFRS we are quite far with the IFRS implementation. So we will start also in the near future to publish in IFRS. And then if everything's settled, let's say, I expect in the coming years, of course, to also do the upgrade to the main market, because this is the last part that we need to implement to be fully ready to go to the main market. But that depends also on the valuation, as we have mentioned many times. We want to see at least the market capitalization of the company closer to at least 100 million euros.
At least 100 million euros. Peter, thank you very much for the discussion. Best of luck in everything you do.
Thank you very much, and have a wonderful day.
Ladies and gentlemen, we now conclude ZF today's opening. With us was Peter de Boer from the AGRAR Group. Thank you for staying with us until the end, and we wish you a profitable week.
Știu ce spun.
Statele Unite și Ucraina bat palma, au ajuns la un acord pentru exploatarea resurselor minerale.
Pacea care, uite, dintr-o dată, parcă toată lumea o acceptă.
Știu ce te interesează.
Grocul lui Musk nu îți spune ce vrei tu, ci doar ce are voie.
Oana, leagănul democrației.
Uite-te pe Twitter, uite-te pe Facebook.
Asta este absolut inacceptabil.
Cine are voie să vorbească acolo?
Știu cum să te fac curios.
Ultimul robot umanoid de la Figure face treburi casnice în locul tău.
Băi, o să te bați cu robotul pe sarcini. Nu speli tu vasele, le spăl eu.
Știu cum să te emoționezi.
A apărut platforma dedicată celor care regretă că au devenit mame. Nu am fost niciodată mama pe care ei au vrut-o și, sincer, nici ei n-au fost copiii pe care eu i-aș fi vrut. E foarte dur.
Știu să conving.
Unele despărțiri sunt sănătoase. De exemplu, despărțirea de smartphone.
Lasă telefonul acasă, ca nu se întâmplă absolut. De ce să te apuci anxietatea? Că doar nu ne-am născut toți cu telefonul în mână.
Știu să câștig.
Uite, chiar am roșit așa un pic.
Știu, deci știi.